Welcome to the Real Estate Show on KMED, March 7th and 8th, 2015. Pete Belcastro and Joe Brett, the real estate guys with you. You know, once a week here on KMED, we get together and talk about all sorts of issues facing real estate in Jackson and Josephine County. And what's so interesting is that we just never seem to run out of topics and things to talk about in 6 years of doing this show every week, Joe.
Yeah, I was a person that didn't like change when I got my license, and I've come to embrace it now because that's what the market does. It just comes and goes and takes some twists and turns that you just can't foresee, but all in all, things are going pretty well right now.
Well, you know, our guests for the last several months before the new year, you know, have been saying, we're all saying that 2015 was going to be a good year for all these different reasons. And like I say, I was pessimistic, you know that, but I've really changed my attitude on that because all the signs, everywhere you go, the only thing that concerns me is if our valuations go too fast, too much, too quickly, and then the whole thing can, come down again. But I don't think this is happening yet. So I think those are all good signs. Anyway, today here on the show, Brad Bennington. He's the chief executive of the Home Builders Association of Jackson County. And all around a good friend. He's also...
You betcha.
I guess congratulations. You're the newest member of the Jacksonville City Council. And, of course, he's a member of the Jackson County Planning Commission as well.
Yeah.
And the Home Builders. I don't know.
And a couple other things, yeah.
Anyway, how are you doing? Tell us what, we had Hayden Holmes was in here last week, and we talked about homes and the number of lots and kinds of things out there. And the robustness of home building is really going on.
Yeah, new home construction is having a good year this year. And, of course, the other part of that conversation is it's always, compared to what? And, of course, we hit the trough. We hit the bottom of the trough in 2012.
Mm-hmm.
And we've improved them. Lenders have come back to the table. There's demand. People love Southern Oregon. They want to live in Southern Oregon. They're happy to be in Southern Oregon. And our builders are out there. But you know what? There's kind of a couple of things. A couple of things that would make things a lot better. And part of that would be is having enough people to do all the work that needs to be done to build all these new homes that people want to work in. And so we were able to have our friend John Early come with us today, and a little bit later in the program we'll be talking about a skilled labor shortage that's really hobbling our ability to respond to the market demand that's out there.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a shortage of homes. The inventory is really tight. We could really use it.
Well, it's out there, and it's an issue that doesn't get talked about. I mean, I think we talked about it on our show a little bit because we've heard from people like the home builders who can't find enough skilled labor around. Let's bring John on here to the show. John Early is the president of Western States Environmental Services. And first of all, welcome to the show, John. Nice to have you here.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me.
Now, just tell people, Western States Environmental Service, if I needed your service as a real estate broker, I would call you to do what?
We'd come out and do asbestos surveys if you were doing some remodel work, if you were doing some demolition work, if you had a heating oil tank that you were going to had converted into gas heat, we'd come out and decommission the heating oil tank.
Mm-hmm.
If during the course of the year have a tight, hard winter and you had some water damage in your house and had some mold, we come out and take care of the mold issues also.
Mm-hmm. All those fun things.
It sounds
all the stuff in guys in white suits.
Yeah,
it sounds like John would know things that the DEQ and the EPA know things about.
I really want to know about from him of what he's doing.
He's probably really smart about that.
Just a plethora of information that's completely useless.
Well, sir,
unless your home has mold or has one of those other issues.
Exactly.
Well, I took a class from John a few years ago down at John L. Scott one day, and I remember we talked about heating oil tanks and about asbestos and about mold and things like that. What are the, I had a number of questions then even to ask you. I'm just curious, what is the most common, remedy? What's the most common problem that you see or that you guys are actually called for around the valley?
Well, for the last 15, 18 months or so, we've been doing a lot of asbestos work.
Asbestos work.
Because as Brad is saying, we've seen although new housing starts are up year on year and for the last couple of years, the part of the market that we actually take care of is the remodel renovation market.
Okay,
maybe the flips.
Right.
Well,
flips.
Flips are big.
Flips are big, but people also going out for contract and buying a house and having a contract to live in.
That absolutely correlates to what Brad's been telling us, hasn't it? That remodeling has really been a big thing, and so that would correspond to people wanting to test and know those things. That makes perfect sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, you guys remember just a few years ago when 65% of the solds were distressed houses. You had people walking away from houses. The lenders would take the houses back, and then the lenders would promptly do nothing with those houses for the next 20 months or so.
Yeah.
So, these houses were potentially good buys, but then they need somebody like John to come and evaluate the home. This home's been sitting there for a long period of time. Maybe the roof's leaking, maybe the windows are leaking, God knows what's going on there. And so you got to make sure that house is properly rehabilitated so that it can be safely occupied. And of course, that's where John comes in.
Right. And the remodel market is typically in the houses that were built in the 60s and 70s and 80s, which is when asbestos building material
was being used.
Right.
And how do you remedy some of the things? What have you seen? Is it a big problem, or where do you find it? And what should, I guess, if listeners are hearing us, what should they be concerned about in this type of thing regarding asbestos?
Well, everybody knows about popcorn ceiling.
Yeah,
popcorn ceiling from houses in the early 60s through the mid-late 60s are very high probability of asbestos. And then we look at sheet vinyl flooring and mostly vinyl floor tiles.
Vinyl floor tiles.
And that's where we see a lot of our work.
And that's where most of it is.
Correct. We get a little bit of insulation and some transite siding, but mostly it's inside and mostly it's popcorn ceilings.
Mostly in popcorn ceilings.
Any lead-based paint?
Lead-based paint
that's a little easier to mitigate. Right?
It's easier to mitigate. It's just recently in the last 4 years now come under EPA jurisdiction. So there's a lot of unknowns from contractors who are doing work on pre-1978 homes, and we have partnerships with a lot of home builders who do this. They get their license, but they're not equipped or knowledgeable enough to actually do the remediation. So they call us, and we work for that contractor to take care of siding issues and window issues.
I will just tell you, when I go in tour homes with other realtors, and you walk into a house that has a popcorn ceiling, you notice that thing right away. I swear, everybody will say something about it. Is it? I can leave it, right? I don't have to mess with it,
and
right?
And the green shag carpeting that's still in the
closet.
closet.
It usually goes with that.
It's still in the closet.
Green, orange,
that and gold,
blue shags. I mean,
I grew up with green shag carpeting and popcorn ceilings, and probably my behavioral problems are tied to that.
There you go.
Well, but the ceilings themselves are safe, right? But should people have them removed? Do you recommend that, John? Or tell me what?
As you just said, the ceilings are good if they're stable.
Right.
If there's been water damage and the ceiling is flaking and peeling and dropping, that becomes a hazard. A hazard because we're really interested in asbestos as an airborne hazard.
As an airborne hazard. Okay.
If somebody actually likes the look of the popcorn ceiling, they can leave it. There's no regulations indicate or suggest that you have to take care of it. The DEQ is actually rather soft on residents and homeowners. They don't require remediation. But when you do it, they have certain guidelines that you have to follow when you do the activity itself.
If you do,
and a homeowner can do it themselves.
I was going to say a homeowner can work on your own
right.
place.
But I'll tell you what, it's a dirty, ugly, nasty job, and we certainly don't recommend it. Not only because we do it, but because it is a dirty, nasty job.
Do you guys think that the resale of a house like that with the popcorn ceiling brings it down in value? What do you think?
I think so, because what we're seeing is a lot of people who are buying these houses, the second, third, fourth owners now are younger couples, younger families,
and they're more aware of it,
and they're much more aware of it, and much more particular about what they're bringing their children up into. So we're seeing them turn and going to not only aesthetically more pleasing, but getting the hazardous materials out of the house.
I've heard that. Yes.
I have yet to show a property or have a buyer ask me, I got to have the popcorn ceiling.
Really?
Yeah,
you got to have it?
I got to have it.
You got to keep it or you want one?
You got to find me that.
It's not their top 10 item.
No, that's not a hot topic.
Well, John, by the way, we're with John Early from Western States Environmental Service and Brad Bennington of the Home Builders today on the Real Estate Show with Pete and Joe this weekend. I'm curious.
Yes, you are.
of many things, as you know, but you're talking about people and being able to get this younger people coming into the market, and we're hearing that again. I was at a seminar today. Home building and first-time home buyers were kind of creeping back into the market. as we see this, these new people, younger people,
The newbies.
their amenities they want in new construction is very different from the generation that preceded them and the generation that preceded them. That is really quite startling to me.
Are we talking about the millennials?
The millennials? Okay, we'll start there, yes.
The 18 to 30, 36
Well,
crowd.
the first-time homebuyer group now.
First-time homebuyer
they're the
group.
ones.
Yeah. No, they have different expectations. They've got different bells and whistles. Back in the day, having a home intercom was a big thing. I got a home intercom. And then other built-ins.
You just dated yourself.
I know.
There.
I know. But
They're wanting things like smaller footprints.
they're
They're wanting all efficient appliances. I mean, I'm just hearing as we go to these classes that this is the millennials are changing the way home building is going to go, and for the environmental reasons that John just said and what you're talking about.
There's a couple of drivers, and some of the drivers don't apply as much in our market as they do in other markets. For instance, if you go up in Portland, the really, really young market is up in the Portland metro market.
Sure.
And up there, condominiums are just hotter than pancakes.
Yep.
They can't
build enough of them.
Yeah, ADU stands for auxiliary dwelling unit, and they're building ADUs, till the cows come home.
Smart kids.
Up there.
Well, because that's
They're
where
getting their foot in the door.
That's where the jobs are. No, let's face it, that's where Nike is. And that's where the big jobs are in our state. They're up there.
So that's
those are
right. So that's a real active demographic in the Portland metro market. Now, what's our market down here? Well, our guys are you're going to be so amazed. Our primary mover up market here in Southern Oregon is retiring people.
Yeah, I agree.
So we're shipping out all of our young talented people, and we're importing older people that we can sell services to. But their needs for homes are changing, and they're looking ahead. Now, one of the things, and you've probably heard this before, you're going to hear me say it today, and you're going to hear it later. It's aging in place construction practices.
Yeah.
And if you look at our current directory, the home builders, we're just getting ready to publish our new directory, and you're going to see a new heading there that we have not had before called Aging in Place.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some examples over in Central Point.
Sharon Johnson that we've been out to.
Howard and Sharon Johnson. W.L. Moore is actually building some homes. And the idea with these construction practices that are actually fairly easy to accomplish and low financial impact on the home allow people to age in and stay in their homes longer. They're built to allow for the types of assistances that people are likely to need. So that's kind of a different thing, and that's not going to be as much a feature in some of these younger markets as they are here in our market.
Very true.
We're going to have in our new construction. We're going to be old people ready.
Yeah.
We're going to be ready for all of us. And we've been in these homes, and they're actually quite. I don't know why you wouldn't do them anyway. It's not necessary. It does not add. The thing that it does not do, Brad, is that it does not add, according to Sharon Johnson and Howard, does not add to the cost of the construction by building this way.
Not too much.
Very, very little.
We just don't have the job bases to attract the younger people to change that demographic. That's the way it's going to be going forward for a little while now till we can catch up with the job creation.
Which I think John's going to be talking about some of the consequences of this here in a little bit.
Right. We have a really a need for trades in the area for both commercial construction as well as home construction, from plumbers to electricians to mechanical.
You name it.
People across the board.
Yeah. People.
They left us in the.
So what? Yeah. What happened? They just left.
They left for reason for jobs.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
In the 30s and 40s, everybody came to the West.
They went to North Dakota.
Yeah, and in the 2000s, everybody went to the urban centers because there is no work here. We are still struggling with only about a 50 to 60% recovery from the our economic high point in 06, 07. And urban areas like Portland, they're up at 100, 102, 110% of their pre-recession environments, right? And areas like Josephine County, they're only 5 or 15, maybe 15% up from their recession low point.
Yeah,
so they're struggling
very much
big
up
time.
there, happening
Right.
there.
And
That's
the other problem is that the wage up there is higher.
Yeah.
The wage in the Portland metro area is easily 18% higher than our wage down here.
But the reality is that even up there in the Portland metro market, even there's a shortage of skilled labor as well.
Really?
This is a national problem, but it's exacerbated here because we have such a low economic base here compared to what we used to have it's demonstrated in a much more pronounced fashion here than it is in other markets.
Right, and our younger generation isn't fluid as it is in most urban areas. And we don't have any input-output of the 20, 30-somethings. They're just not coming in and moving out. There's no flow.
There's no flow. And what do you do? I mean, how do you deal with this? Because how do you train somebody? I mean, there's got to
be some young guys out there just chomping at the bit for a family wage job that could come with this construction.
Well, they don't have any skills, Joe. That's what they're saying. They don't have any skills. Do you teach them? I mean, I asked Brian Poliger from Hayden Homes this last week. I go, how do you train somebody? I mean, would you train somebody to come out and be a framer? Because that's how you start, And he kind of hard to do that because they're building. They need to have other people, so it's hard to do. We'll continue that. We'll take out a break coming up here. We'll continue that conversation. It's really exacerbated here, and you're right. It's a problem. I hear it all the time. We don't have any workers.
Yep.
And yet, look at our job situation here. Some opportunities. Anyway, the Real Estate Show. We're coming right back. Real Estate Show rolls on here on KMED, AM and FM, March 7th and 8th, 2015. Pete Belcaster and Joe Brett, the Real Estate Guys, with you. Don't forget, if you ever have any questions regarding any real estate issues, you can get a hold of Joe or I. Email's pretty easy to do, Pete or Joe at realestateshoworegon.com. We'd love to hear from you as well. So I'd like to answer questions. Quite an interesting market going on out there, I'll tell you that. And inventories are still low. It's so interesting as we are into March now. A lot of buyers. I mean, even in our office, I was down there the other day for like 4 hours, and there's a lot of activity going on. I had a closing was myself last week. So there's a lot of stuff going on. Right. It's always good to.
It's due to really get rolling here too. Yeah.
And what will it be like in 2 months?
That's what I'm interested to see is
because what is the busiest month of the year in real estate? April. Remember that. You sell more houses in April than any other month of the year.
Yippee.
Yeah, so at least in the last few years it has been that way.
I'm interested to see how many sellers kind of come out and take advantage of the conditions that might be in their favor right now. It's been a pretty balanced market, but they sellers have a little edge with the inventory.
It is a seller's market right today as we talk. That's for sure.
And you're going to see a lot more excited buyers here in the very near future.
We are?
Yes, you are.
Any particular reason?
Because the Oregon legislature has just passed a carbon tax that is going to increase all the costs of new home construction.
Now, I know that the legislature, carbon tax. California has a carbon tax, so we're going to copy that. Correct?
If
I understand that right,
the intent is similar. I haven't seen the final language yet, but the bottom line is it's going to increase the cost of everything. Everything that goes into a home is going to cost you more money. You're not going to get any more out of it, but it's just going to cost you more
because the cost of transportation is going to be increased. The way I understand that, to get things here is going to cost more because it's
going to increase it's going to increase both the purchase price and the transportation cost both.
Right. Okay.
We wish it only increased the transportation cost, but it's going to increase the cost of production, the cost of purchase, and the cost of transportation. So it's going to hit you all over the place.
Who can we thank for this brainstorm?
Thank Peter Buckley. He's one of the.
Is that right?
Yeah, he's one of the big cheeses of the whole thing.
Well, really, who? We just have this litany of these taxes and
it's
every session. This comes out more and more, and a carbon tax. What is more? What is more bull than a carbon tax?
This is what happens when one political party, and they both do it, when one political party has great control over a state.
Well, get control of yourself.
And that's what's happening here. Right. And this has been one of their pet projects, and they're going to get it through while they come.
Let me get to your wallet.
And so they get it. Well, they always do that.
So for people who are smart enough to already have a house under construction or are closing on a home or are in the process of closing on a home, good news for you. You're getting a great deal because every home purchased past a certain point where this kicks in, you're going to have the exact same home in the exact same place, and it's just going to cost you a lot more money to have the same product.
It's almost like a system development charge, isn't it? It just is added cost to the total of the deal.
Why don't we tax the legislature and all the carbon that comes out of every session?
Okay.
They get together and dream this.
Well, we know how you feel about that. Okay, John Early is here from Western States Environmental Services, and we've been talking to him also about the kinds of inspections and tests that people have, whether new construction or really, it doesn't really matter, does it, John? You can have both to test, right?
In the late 90s, the DEQ passed a statute that said anytime you do a remodel or a demolition, whether it's residential or commercial property construction, that you need an asbestos survey for it. So even if something was built 2 years ago, we actually get called to come out and do a survey on it. Now we can pass that pretty quickly and pretty easily, but the problem is that the landfills, we're trying to limit what goes to landfills and or goes to the correct place in the landfills, and the commercial side of that whole side of the business, as opposed to the government side, the DEQ, is what's enforcing this situation. So we get a lot of calls on people doing, and again, this is why we see remodel activity up on our perspective, because most of this comes from the remodel activity.
From remodel. Now, I've seen people go crazy over mold. You know, there's just a mold in the house, and they just, I'm going to walk away. I'm not going to do anything mold. And I took a class, Joe, recently on this, and I found out there's the 9 myths of mold. If you want to know about that, from Johns Hopkins University, by the way. Is mold a big? Is it a big problem? I mean, I've seen grow houses where marijuana has been grown where they don't ventilate right, and mold will gather in strange places because of the humidity. That's out there. But other than that, how big of a problem is it, John, that you see around the valley?
It really is a problem, and it depends on how susceptible you are from a respiratory standpoint. Somebody who has asthma or has trouble breathing or has kids with trouble breathing, they're going to be much more susceptible to mold issues. And the fact that when you're in a house in the winter, what do you try to do to keep it warm? You close it up, you tighten it up, and you don't get a lot of air movement. And so the mold likes static air. And in houses that have electric baseboards or hot water, steam, radiator heat, not a lot of air movement. So we see a lot of activity in those types of construction. In homes that have forced air heating, a lot less construction, a lot less mold issues. And the newer homes are typically forced air.
Have more air flowing.
Yeah,
Right.
but there's another group of people that really need to know about John Services, and those are people that have older homes built on hillsides where they have what we used to call a daylight basement, where the backside of the basement goes into the hill. And almost all of those homes, they'd go in and they would put drywall on the walls, and then the moisture would come down. The moisture comes down the hill, follows the wall vertically, and then migrates through the wall and causes a mold condition, which usually is not detected for a long period of time. And there's all kinds of houses in Jacksonville and Ashland and other houses that were built
that way.
in anywhere from the 1930s on.
Yeah.
Where they just didn't have good moisture prevention.
Right, the membrane, the moisture barrier technology wasn't there.
And today you have a moisture barrier that goes in there between the two, keeps them out of there.
We have construction practices today that are adequate, and back then they just didn't. And so they've got a mold problem. Maybe they buy a house, maybe they do a remodel, and then they need to call John and find out what their situation is.
Now, I also was at a class recently, and I remember having this presentation about radon gas. And after this presentation,
don't mention radon.
Not radon.
Not radon.
After this class, I go, oh my God, I have a radon test every client I ever will do in the future. I thought this was the scariest thing I'd ever seen. This mysterious radon gas. Well, it's not as weird as it is it? And we don't really have a problem here with it. Is that right?
It's not really mysterious. Radon is a radioactive gas. It is a gas that's heavier than air. Which means it's heavier than nitrogen, heavier than oxygen. But typically, where we see problems with this is in the East Coast, and again, it goes back to what Brad continues to talk about is the construction technique, and most of our construction technique here is slab or crawl space, non-basement. So there's no living area in an area where the radon gas could collect and not be blown out by normal entry and exit of a house. So when you open doors and open windows and let even slight breezes blow through the house, that pretty much mitigates the radon issues. So we get calls for people on radon who are typically coming from where? The East Coast. And
they've heard of that.
And then there are maps showing radon deposits, and there are deposits in Jackson County. They're mostly on the east side, in the southeast of the county. But they come in, and there's such an issue with it in the East Coast, and people are used to this for decades, really, that it's one of the first things out of their mouth. And we talk with a lot of people about this, and we don't try to dissuade them from it. We just try to educate them a little bit more about what the real issue is.
Yeah, radon mitigation in Jackson County and Josephine County, for the most part, is like people buying polar bear defense programs that live in Arizona.
It's not an issue.
That's a good example.
Well, that's good to know.
Not much of a problem.
Yeah, our listeners need to know that because sometimes someone will say, "Oh my goodness, I heard this or I read this," and it doesn't always apply to different parts of the country, which is what we're saying here today. Well, we got a break coming up here, and when we come back, the the Home Builders Association Home Show is coming up next month, actually, at the end of April, and we're going to talk to Brad about that as well. And
we're trying not to let my wife know that because she likes to shop at the home show.
Oh, we'll have plenty for her.
Well, there'll be a lot out there this year. I have a feeling
that under wraps.
They're only doing one this year as opposed to two, and so that's really good to hear. There's one other thing is you talk about lifelong aging in place kinds of things. That is something that the realtors have added into their documents, as well for the first time. Although everybody was saying nobody has one of these homes, so you really haven't been able to use it because there's only one or two built right now.
It's coming.
You're going to build one for me someday.
Yeah, the Real Estate Show here on KMED, AM and FM, March 7th and 8th of 2015. Pete and Joe are coming right back with more right after this. Real Estate Show continues here on KMED, March 7th and 8th, 2015. Pete Belcaster and Joe Brett, the real estate guys, with you next week. Scott Lewis, the president of the Southern Oregon Multiple Listing Service, and Patrick Eiler, the president of the Rogue Valley Association of Realtors, will be along, and they'll give us an update on activities at the state level, what's going on locally for realtors, and information good for consumers to know what these guys are up to because they're out there representing all of us, different things.
We'll grill those guys on everything we need to know.
There's been some kind of a brouhaha going between Zillow and Trulia. Have you heard about that? Have you guys heard about that? Well, I don't know the whole story, but
what's going on?
Apparently, they're merging, but they're having issues regarding getting information to them from MLSs, and so just be aware if you use Zillow and Trulia that the information coming out is going to be changing. I don't know if it's happened yet, but it's coming anyway. It's
changing,
kind of
not necessarily any better. It's just changing.
Not necessarily. It works pretty well right now, and I don't know what they're going to do, but there's a big battle going on over that or something. Anyway, we're with Brad Bennington of the Jackson County Home Builders Association and John Early, the president of Western States Environmental Services here on the Real Estate Show. Gosh, we've learned a lot today, haven't we? I think all the things we already heard, especially from John, about things to test. He's been busy testing asbestos, kinds of things like that. Heating oil tanks, works on those things. You'd be surprised how many that are out there, aren't there?
There's a lot out there.
Yeah, more than you think.
More than you would think, and most of them are unused and abandoned.
Right.
In the 70s, we got
natural
gas in here in the between 68 72, and a high percentage of people moved to natural gas. It is logical when they did that, but they just walked away from their tanks. And now when they go to sell the house, disclosure indicates that you got to take care of it. And just like we were talking about, people don't want asbestos in their houses. They don't want underground tanks in their yards either.
Yeah. So another thing to put on your checklist of selling is, do you have one in your house? Like that septic system, you're going to have to check those things because they're after you today. I've been taking too many classes, this last 2 weeks. You know that? I'm learning too much.
You're racking up continuing education credits.
Yeah, but it's making me crazy because I'm learning all these different things, and I go, I got to tell people this. I got to tell people this.
How much
it hurts sometimes.
From wells to septics, you name it. Everything's changed in terms of how you basically have to disclose pretty much everything that you know, isn't it? You got to remedy certain things, and John says his business is based upon regulation, government regulation, isn't it?
Correct. That's correct.
I mean, that's really true. Government says you got to check for asbestos, you got to check for these, and you do those kinds of works.
And unfortunately, people don't like to see us drive up. but that's just the reality of what goes on.
Or the neighbors must really look strange with those Western State environmental trucks.
Well, it's funny because we go into a job and we take out a heating oil tank, and all of a sudden there's a neighbor from across the street coming over and saying, "Well, could you look at my house?" Or "I got one too.
I've got one of those.
Can you guys take it out for me?" And we come into a neighborhood and might do 2 or 3 tanks at a pop.
Wow, isn't that something? Well, people are aware of those things. Good.
Yeah. So John and his crew, they really do perform a service in the community, and your listeners can't tell us, but if they could see John and me, they'd realize that we've got a lot of gray hair, and the things that John and I need to do the work that we do is we need young people, which goes back to what we were talking about earlier, and this is where I really want to say something that John and I strongly believe. Rural Community College has had in the past construction curriculum helping us. but they're shutting it all down. They're shutting it all down at a time when we need this more than ever. And so your listeners need to know that we really do have and I'm going to use a strong word here, but I'm going to use a word that really fits the problem. Mm-hmm. We have a crisis of skilled laborers in our market. We are actually already importing people to do the skilled labor that we need to do to keep up with the demand, and it's only going to get worse as we go down the timeline. So we would just, really, get involved. Yeah. Let RCC know that we need workers. We need skilled workers. We need carpenters, concrete finishers.
And Brad, as you're well aware, it's not just that we're importing workers for our local companies, for our local contractors, but we have operations contractors, large ones from out of the region, coming in and working in our backyard, and taking business away from the local economy,
and taking the profits back home,
And this is the bigger issue for us that I see as we look forward, as we go forward, as our labor force atrophies, more and more larger companies will start coming in and poaching our backyard and continue to drive us out.
Target
too, you bet we are.
Our growth projections and our needs for housing going forward.
And that's why Hayden came here, because they did all this research and said Medford was going to be one of the busiest housing markets in the state. That's why they're here.
And we see this in our market all the time. Right. Yeah. I mean, when the 549C school district did all of their school rework over the last 5 years or so. Not their fault, but most of that abatement came from out of the area.
Out of the area, because no skilled workers. So I hope that's so ready, and all the people who are supposed to be involved with job creation here, Joe, hear that. Because they've been on our show, some of them, and we've been saying this, that there's been a lack of skills. And
our educational institutions need to align themselves with the needs of our region.
Vocational education.
Boy, do we need that construction.
That's a big deal.
For us. Yes.
Before we get out of here, the Home Builders Home Show is coming up, and Brad wants to tell us about that. So what you got cooking for that?
I do. We're doing one home show this year. It's going to be big. It's going to be huge, because we're only doing the one. It's April 24, 25, and 26. 3 words for you: home decor pavilion. It's going to be great. It's going to be 12,000 feet set aside for home decor elements only. Indoor and outdoor decorating, everything that women want to see inside or outside of a home is going to be in our home decor pavilion. They're going to love it. It's going to be fantastic.
Oh, cool.
We've got our benefit golf tournament coming up June 12th. Beneficiary this year, Redemption Ridge, wonderful organization doing great work in the area. And then we're going to have something really exciting that we're doing this year called our Tour of Homes. It's going to be in the fall. Homes from entry-level homes all the way up to really nice high-end homes, including aging in place homes. People can come and look and see everything from the different subcontractors, the products, the services. It's going to be fantastic.
Do we get to see Brad's home?
And that's...
If you want, we got and we're finishing up we're finishing up a home right now it's a beautiful home up in Eagle Point.
This is the Home Builders house that you're building. You're almost done with it.
Yes, we are.
And you're going to sell it, right?
Yes, we are.
And you're going to make some money on it.
Yes,
and fund your projects of the future. That's really cool. John, nice to visit with you. How can someone get a hold of you at Western States if they want to talk to you about any of this stuff?
Well, you can just call us. Our phone is 541-770-2482.
Okay.
Or just yell out the window as you're driving by.
Or when you see one of your trucks parked outside, just go up and just
there you go. Just tap on the window.
And we'll talk about that. Well, we're all out of time here for today's show. Good one. Guys, learned a lot. John, nice to visit with you. Brad,
great.
We'll see you as well soon. Joe, as well. The March just rolls along here, doesn't it? The real estate show does with it.
Let's go sell some houses.
All right. This show repeats at 9 o'clock on Sunday morning right here on AM 1440. And all of our shows are realestateshoworegon.com. Have a great week, everybody, and God bless.
Thank you for listening to the Original Real Estate Show with Pete Belcastro and Joe Brett, the Real Estate Guys. For advice, guidance, or counsel on any of our topics, or to watch a replay of today's show, visit our website at realestateshoworegon.com. This show is sponsored by RE/MAX, Ideal Brokers of Southern Oregon, Ticor Title, All Cities Property Management, and the Jackson Soil and Water Conservation District. We'll continue our weekly quest to enhance the value of your property and to make you a smart real estate consumer when we gather every Saturday and Sunday on KMED for the one and only Original Real Estate Show.